Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the SOE Career Services webinar. This is part one of the Teacher Job Search Bootcamp series, Prepping for the Job Search. My name is Shamil Orr, and I am the Associate Director of Student Affairs and Career Services, and I will be the presenter for this session. We also have SOE Career Advisor Laura Mayers online, who will serve as the moderator. She will be assisting with collecting and answering your questions this morning, excuse me. You should know this presentation is approximately 1 hour and will be recorded and posted in the SOE Career Services system, EdWorks, within a few weeks. After this presentation, students will be able to identify and effectively tailor required application materials, define networking and understand how it impacts the job search, develop a professional online presence, and implement helpful networking strategies. As you begin to think about preparing for the job search, it's important to review your application materials. This is step one. The most common application materials include your resume, cover letter, portfolio, recommendation letters, and references. We will go over each of these in greater detail shortly, but know there could be other materials requested, such as transcripts and a copy of your teaching certificate. I know it's still early in the program, and most, if not all of you, haven't even thought about a portfolio. But later in the program, when you start putting materials together for the job search, you will likely have something in terms of a portfolio that you can share with potential employers or connections. Your resume is an important part of the application. That's why it's important to ensure you organize the information in a way that is easy for the reader to determine you have the appropriate credentials and experience for the position. This brings me to section headers. The sections outlined in red are sections that every teacher needs to have on their resume. An order is important. Be sure to follow this example when updating your materials. The teaching experience section should include all of your student teaching experiences and any additional classroom experiences. As a beginning teacher, it's important to list as much experience as possible. Once you start teaching full-time, you can then reevaluate the experiences you include in this section. Once you've added your teaching experience, it's up to you what additional sections you include and what they will be named. Review all of the experiences you want to include on your resume and then group them in a way that enables you to draw attention to the experiences you want to highlight for the employer. Besides your classroom and teaching experience, you might have a collection of experiences that are all education related. For this, you might consider a broader name for a section, such as related, relevant, or additional experience. Ultimately, you want to pick the ones that resonate with you. If you see more specific focus areas across your experiences, like leadership experiences, community service or engagement, tutoring, and you want to draw attention to those, then consider creating those more specific section headers. For the header contact information, keep it clean, simple, and not too large because real estate is precious on a resume. Therefore, you don't want to use too much space for this section when you can use it to describe your experience. This is a topic for a future workshop, but one thing you can consider adding to your header that might be new to some is a URL to an online portfolio. I just wanted to let you know that if you create an online portfolio, make sure to include the URL on the resume in the contact section. Studies have shown that majority of employers prefer sans serif fonts like Arial or Helvetica, as opposed to serif fonts like Times New Roman, just because they're a little easier to read. It's really important to have meaningful bullets and not just state tasks you did. This is a really common mistake, but Career Services has strategies and resources available to help you craft your bullets for the resume. A common question we get is, can a resume be more than one page? So the short answer is yes, as long as all of the information on your resume is concise, relevant, and meaningful, it's okay to have a 2-page resume, especially if you've been out of school for an extended period of time. Typically, we recommend you do not go over 2 pages, but of course there are always exceptions. Keep in mind, you're going to hear from principals who are adamant adamantly against going over one page. And on the flip side, you will have others who are adamantly for having 2 pages as long as it's all relevant. Unless you know the particular preference of a principal, just follow what works best for you. Cover letters are very critical when applying for jobs. It allows an applicant to share additional context from information included on the resume, and it's used to evaluate your written communication skills. When crafting a cover letter, remember to do the following. Tailor. You always want to ensure that you are creating a cover letter that is tailored for a particular school or district. We can easily spot generic cover letters. And so by tailoring it, you can ensure that you are showing to the reader that that school or district is really important to you. Make sure that you address it to a specific person. So looking at the principal in the building, or an HR professional if you are applying for a particular district. But anytime you can address it to a specific person, do so. You want to name drop when appropriate. So if you have a connection with, if you have a connection with a principal or a teacher, someone that you know, certainly include it. Make sure that you get an okay from that individual in the event that you want to include them, but name dropping can be done. Share what you know. So certainly doing research about the school or district. What initiatives do they have? What curriculum are they utilizing? Incorporate that within your cover letter again, so we can see that it has been tailored. Keep your stories brief. So thinking about your experience and how it aligns with that particular school. You certainly want to share them, but don't go over one page. So keeping them brief. Use buzzwords in a meaningful way. So thinking about differentiated instruction, thinking about culturally responsive classrooms, all of those are examples of buzzwords. And so when you can do so, incorporate them, but make sure you're doing it in a thoughtful way. Have others proofread your documents, just to make sure that you're not overlooking things. As you continue to work on cover letters, you might easily overlook really small typos. And so having others look them over is always good practice. Explain the unknown. If there are gaps on your resume, if there is a transition from one industry to the next, explain that information. Again, you want to be able to provide to the employer all the information that they need to know. You don't want them to assume anything, and so sharing that up front in the cover letter can be helpful. And the most important thing, a cover letter should not go beyond more than one page. So again, this is where those brief stories become important, because you want to make sure that you're conveying your experiences, but also doing so in a concise manner. So do not go beyond one page. You want to avoid, again, sending generic cover letters. Don't ever address a cover letter to whom this may concern. You want to make sure that you're being professional. You don't want to use a lot of space describing the school. Again, they know who they are, they know their initiatives, and so it's better that you use space describing you and how you easily fit into their environment. Don't forget to share why you're interested or passionate about the job or the work. So again, if you identify something that's really important to you throughout your research, make sure you're highlighting why that's important. Don't have grammatical errors. Make sure that you are connecting the dots, I should say, for all of the employers, and don't threaten to follow up. Usually in applications, if an administrator is interested in following up with you, they will do so. And so there's no need for you to say how you will follow up with them. A portfolio allows the candidate to provide the interviewer with insight on their professional interests and future career goals. It includes additional information about teacher candidates that cannot be found or shared on the resume or cover letter. This is a place where you can provide sample lesson plans, Pictures or screenshots of you working with students, your teaching philosophy, examples of culturally responsive teaching, and more. Given student teaching looks different because of the pandemic, you should consider adding a short essay that details your experience teaching virtually. Include how you had to adjust, learn new technologies, and meet the growing needs of students. Think about what was effective and what could have been improved. If you are adding pictures or screenshots of students, make sure you get a signed release form. The template can be found in the program policy handbook. There are some students who prefer to use binders or hard copy materials. It's really up to you, but given the state where we're in and most interviews will likely be held remotely, it's going to be a lot harder to have hard copy materials. And so I encourage you all to do digital portfolios. In the event that things change by the time you are on the job search, know that a hard copy portfolio is also an option. Each school or district or administrator is going to want something different, so it's best for you to decide how you want to present yourself and move forward with a format that is acceptable to you. There are a few things to consider when thinking about a binder or hard copy. One, if you're unable to leave it with the employer, for this reason, a lot of students have created a simplified version within a brochure that they can leave with the interviewer. Two, it's hard to use your binder within an interview setting, because you have to flip through pages. And it may be time to move on to the next question by the time you find the example you're looking for. Digital portfolios also come with challenges. Many feel that they're not tech savvy enough to build online portfolios. Therefore, we recommend you use some of the platforms that have templates that you can update. Let's look at two examples of portfolios. So here's an example of one of our alums, Kelsey Lafferty. As you can see, her portfolio is organized very well. She has various tabs along the left-hand side under her name. So included, she has a home page where she talks a little about herself, as well as like a contact form in the event someone wants to reach out to her. She has her educational philosophy statement, her experience. She talks about the classroom community, different lessons that she has, as well as the use of technology. So again, we will provide the webinar and the slides at a later date. And so feel free to click through and look at the example to get ideas for how to organize your portfolio. Another example we have here is another alum. And again, on her homepage, there we go. If I can get this to move down. You'll see a little bit about her education, so her degree and certification. She has a little summary, talks a little bit about herself. She's got a picture. But at the top, you can see she has a resume listed. She has relevant experience, talks a little about her students, and then provides lessons and units. So again, these are just examples for you to understand what content can be included in a portfolio and the ways in which the information is organized. With recommendation letters, you want to pick individuals who can speak directly to your teaching practice and professionalism. I encourage you to start thinking about these people now and making requests as early as possible. Remember, the majority of students will be on the same job search timeline. Therefore, it's best to get your request in early. Give the contacts at least 2 to 3 weeks notice. Recommendation letters can be requested in different ways. In some cases, the employer may ask you to provide the recommendation letter on behalf of the recommender. In other cases, the employer may ask the recommender to email so they can contact them directly to inquire about the letter. Each school is different, so make sure that you are aware of the process. When thinking about references, you want to spend time thinking about who you will list as references when requested. You don't want to be scrambling trying to figure out who to include. Make sure that you have 3 to 4 contacts identified and listed on a document that has the same heading as your resume. When selecting these people, think about those who can speak directly to your skills and abilities in the classroom. Think about what can they say about you. We do have a template provided in EdWorks that will show you what information is needed and how to organize that document. So we have a question. Is addressing to the principal always appropriate to avoid using whom this may concern? Yes, principals will most likely be a part of the interview process. And so by addressing your cover letter to the principal is an opportunity really for you to create, again, a more tailored document. So the principal is always a good default. Yes. Step 2 of the process involves networking. I realize this word can create a lot of anxiety for students, but my goal is to provide you with helpful tips to make networking for the job search easy to manage. Research shows networking is an effective job search tool, but what exactly is networking? It's really about making connections and exchanging information with other people, the process of developing and maintaining quality relationships. And most of you are doing this already. I want to share with you some figures from our most recent grads who completed the First Destination survey. This is to demonstrate the importance of networking in the job search, specifically for teacher education graduates. Over 66% of survey respondents said professional and personal contacts helped them land their first teaching position. And you can see the breakdown among the different programs and how that shakes out. The other thing that became most important, excuse me, is the online job boards in which you will find job opportunities. So networking and job boards, okay? In order to build your network, you have to actively engage with a variety of people. I realize many in-person events have been canceled due to the pandemic. However, many events are taking place virtually. Recruiting is still happening via virtual career fairs, and many professional organizations are finding ways to host conferences online. Keep your eye out for events and actively participate when possible. So again, different networking events, career fairs, meet and greets, conferences, all of the SOE career events. We'll be hosting panel sessions with alumni, social networking. You can network anywhere. So how do you build your network? Think about the people who can help you. And who's in their network? Who can they recommend that you speak with? There are different types of contacts. Hot contacts are people you know directly as an associate, friend, colleague, family member, and others. Warm contacts that are referred to you by hot contacts or people you meet once at events, in classes, or in fairs. Cold contacts who are secondary referrals or names you get from lists or websites. When job searching during the pandemic, you should start out with warm contacts first. This includes alumni in UCAN, the University Career Alumni Network, who have volunteered to connect with current students. You can also engage with alumni on Twitter or attend virtual alumni panel events hosted by Career Services. Be mindful of the demands for teachers and administrators who are all managing teaching and working in this new setting. Be patient when reaching out to people, knowing they may not have as much availability as they have in the past. So informational interviewing is really an informal conversation with someone working in an area of interest to you who will give you information and advice. This is really one of the best ways to explore careers in education and build your network. In order to get started with informational interviewing, you want to start with outreach. Pre-COVID, I would advise students to consider outreach by phone or email. But because many people are working remotely, it is best to use email to initiate contact during the pandemic. Before sending your message, you want to make sure that it's well written and error-free. That is the quickest way to have someone disregard your request. If you have poor grammar or typos, so making sure that your message is error-free, okay? Ask if they are willing to have a conversation with you when doing outreach. This is particularly important because you want to provide them with a time commitment. So here's where you tell them how much time you're asking for. For example, 20 to 30 minutes of your time. That way they know what to expect before responding. In summary, you want to keep it short but specific with the request. And be mindful of people trying to create work-life balance who may not respond right away. Remember, the worst thing that can happen is they don't respond. But the best case scenario is they respond and they're willing to talk with you. Again, informational interviewing, I like to look at it as a really low risk way to network. We'll provide you with some good ideas for who you can reach out to. But again, you want to make sure that you are getting information from them and not talking about a job. It really is learning about the individual and their experience at a particular school or working in a district, that then allows for you to start to build that connection. Most people like to talk about themselves and share information about their experiences. And so, again, it's not that much of an ask usually, and that's why people are usually willing to offer informational interviews. Usually at the end of a conversation, you'll find that a person will ask a little bit about you. And so you'll want to be prepared to talk about yourself as well, really what you're hoping to do in terms of next steps or after graduation. And, you know, the goal is really for, in the event that something comes up in their school or district, they may think of you and email you or reach out to you and let you know that something is available in their school or district. Again, if that's a place that you're targeting. So again, it is a very low risk way to start networking. Step 2 is really developing questions. So here is a sample listing of questions that we would typically tell students to ask. So what do you enjoy most about your position? How do you collaborate with other teachers in the school? Or how are you evaluated? But now thinking about the pandemic, there might be a different set of questions that you're asking. So how are teachers, schools, and districts managing under the pandemic? What challenges have you faced with teaching virtually? What was the biggest adjustment for teachers and students? And do you have any advice for how to prepare for virtual teaching? Again, all of these are just sample questions, but think about those questions beforehand and have them ready and prepared. Step 3 is conducting the interview. So because you requested the interview, you want to be prepared to initiate the conversation. You want to start with the introduction. So introduce yourself, thank them for spending time with you, and restate your purpose for the interview. Then tell them how you became interested in education. You can use your tailored elevator speech if you have one prepared. We certainly have resources in EdWorks to help with developing elevator speeches, so I encourage you all to check those out. But it's often good to spend a couple of minutes engaged in informal conversation. Then tell them you wrote down a few questions you want to ask them, and then ask your questions, okay? Be sure to stick to the established time limit and always ask for referrals. For example, can you suggest other people who may be helpful to me in gathering information about this field or school or district? Other helpful tips: take notes, have a positive attitude, be attentive, and use good listening skills. Again, never ask for a job, but do ask for referrals. And make sure that you have your updated resume handy in case they ask for it. You never know, and so you want to always be prepared. Afterwards, you want to reflect on the information that you received. So what did you learn? What else do you need to know? What impressions do you have? Or what do you think about your career direction now? Make sure that you send a brief thank you note within 48 hours. You want to thank the person for spending time with you and answering your questions. Not only will this demonstrate gratitude, but this will also leave this person with a positive impression of you. And then keep in touch. Depending on your interaction, you may decide to keep in touch. Let the person know you followed up on their advice and how things are going as a result. So, question, do we really need 4 recommendation letters? Can the people who write our letters be our references as well? So again, you'd rather have more than you need than not enough. Again, I would say 3 to 4 is a good number to plan for in terms of recommendation letters. And yes, those who write your recommendation letters can also be your references. However, it could be nice if you have more of a variety. So in the event you have others that you can list for references, certainly try to do so. Again, the recommendation letters in some way is them, the individual talking about your experiences. And so if you have multiple people who can share about that, it's all the more better. However, if you have to have them being the same individuals, I think that's okay too. All right. Is it okay to reference just instructors? I'm assuming this is in regards to references. And so, yes, I think you can have instructors. I think if you can also maybe have your mentor teacher or your field instructor, I think all of those are good examples of references. What overlap is there between your recommenders and your references? Um, so I'm assuming here what overlap is between your recommenders and your references. And so again, you can have some overlap. Really the most important thing again is being able to have individuals who can speak to your teaching abilities. So these are going to be individuals who can talk about things you've done well, areas maybe for growth, where you might need a little bit of development. And so there can be overlap again, but I think providing more contacts to get a bigger picture around your experiences is going to be most important. Okay. Is it common to create business cards in this profession? Are they useful for networking, attending conferences, and professional development work? So yes, business cards are common. In fact, pre-COVID, we were offering business cards to students as a way to have a professional interaction with new contacts, employers, recruiters. And so they are common, but don't feel like you have to have them, right? I think it's okay given a lot of things are happening virtually right now. And so don't feel the need to go out and have to quickly create something. But they are common to have, and especially useful when attending networking events, conferences, and professional development opportunities. The next question, is it common to go to career fairs for teaching jobs? I haven't seen any at UMich so far. So yes, it is very common to go to career fairs for teaching jobs. Annually, the University of Michigan hosts an education job fair. Typically, this happens in April. And so you haven't seen much around this job fair right now because we're still in the fall semester. But it is an event where we have schools and districts across Michigan and the larger country represented there. We've had some students leave with job offers. Teaching job fairs are common. We are also sharing other teacher job fairs that we learn about in EdWorks. And so those are being included in our weekly newsletter that goes out on Friday in terms of events. And so check that out as well. There are some districts or counties sometimes that will host career fairs. And so we try to push that information out to students through that communication tool. So all good questions. And hopefully you're all taking something away from what's been shared thus far, right? So we'll keep plugging through. Step 3, we'll talk about social media. So it's important to consider social media when thinking about the job search because if overlooked, it can negatively impact your job search. For example, an article stated that 85% of principals and human resource professionals said a positive online presence influenced hiring decisions, while 70% turned down candidates because of online discoveries. So make sure that you review your accounts and make updates. You have to think about what matters to a potential employer, networking contact, or anyone who can help you find a job or grow your career. The goal is to have a professional presence online that accurately reflects your professional identity. So again, just thinking a little bit more around what employers had to say. So we discontinue the consideration of any candidate we find undesirable online information for. That can be inappropriate photos, posts, tags, blogs, as we consider this to be a reflection or indication of what they would be or bring if hired. Social media usage can significantly help and support teacher candidates in the job search process and can also diminish chances for employment completely. Be wise about what you choose to do online. Again, so making sure that you're reviewing all of your content and making the appropriate updates in order to ensure that you have a professional online presence. Social media outlets like Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn allow educators to connect with other educators to learn from and engage and support one another. These social media outlets are a great way to share resources, to find out about upcoming opportunities, and to learn new strategies for the classroom. For Facebook, you can join a group of like-minded educators. These can be who employ similar pedagogical theories or ones that simply teach the same subject. Also, depending on your program, you might be able to find some SOE alumni pages. Okay. When thinking about Twitter, more and more often, this is being used for professional reasons. So if you're a teacher, you may participate in ed chat or an ed tech chat. Um, this is a great place to find and share journals and articles around your interests. You can also connect with other professionals and share ideas. Again, it's another way to crowdsource information. You have to think too, there are a lot of schools, districts, principals who are also on Twitter. There are parents and families who are also actively engaged. So take a look at the different accounts, see what information you might be able to find. But again, making sure that you're using this tool, these platforms in a professional way. When thinking about LinkedIn, you can learn about professional organizations, job openings, what professionals are involved in inside and outside of the classroom, and more. So as you begin to network and make connections, make sure that you're adding people on LinkedIn. Okay. Education students will wonder if LinkedIn is a good platform for teachers, and I encourage you to see for yourself. LinkedIn is the largest professional networking social media platform, and there are thousands of U of M alumni who are willing to hear from you. So again, make sure that all of your accounts are conveying the same level of professionalism and taking opportunities to look through and see who you might be able to connect with. So we have a question. Is there any particular advice on networking for jobs out of state? So yes, again, thinking about warm contacts, I would say start out with alumni. We have several alumni within EdWorks. There are resources in our document library that have contacts. Some of them may be teaching in other states. And so that's a way to sort of identify individuals and then learn about what that job search process was like for them. Another way to identify alums out of state is thinking about, again, LinkedIn. There is an alumni tool that allows for you to select like a major or concentration. You can narrow it down by location as well. And that is a way to identify other graduates who are currently teaching in other states. And again, they might be able to share information about the certification process out of state. They might be able to talk to you a little bit about the different schools or districts that are in or near their area. But that is sort of the, I think, easiest way to start to network outside of the state, especially if you don't have any of your own contacts. Step 4 is thinking about employer and alumni outreach. When you reach out to these contacts, you want to make sure to remember the following. Keep your emails brief, so less than 100 words is preferable. Make no mentions of jobs, because one of the quickest ways to alienate a potential booster is to ask for favors before trust is built. Okay. Put the connection first. So give your contact a reason to care and pay attention. And this may be, again, your mutual status as University of Michigan alums. Generalize your interests. So by being general, you avoid the risk of alienating contacts who may have helpful advice or connections, but who are not hiring. So again, identifying those contacts and then putting some of the networking strategies to work. So thinking about those informational interviews. Again, you can do research on schools or districts, look at their school web pages, look at their social media, their news articles. We also have the University Career Alumni Network, where individuals have identified themselves as being open to connect with students. We have a group specific to the School of Education, and so you can identify folks who are potential contacts. This here is a screenshot of the UCAN. So again, you can log in. If you're not a part of this already, there's our website, or the URL, I should say. You can get access to the School of Education group, and then you can look for alums based on, again, location. You could do this by elementary or secondary education. So again, it's a nice way for you to identify alumni contacts of individuals who are willing to connect with you. You can also pose questions in discussion board. So if you have a question that you just want to sort of crowdsource and see who's willing to answer, that's another way that you can do that. Now, we have provided some like a sample phone script, right? In the event that you were talking to someone by phone or doing outreach by phone. Again, this is more pre-COVID, so I'm going to go ahead and skip to our email template so that you have a sample in which to do some outreach. Again, very short and concise. I received your name from the alumni database managed by the Career Services team at the School of Ed. As a May graduate, I'm very interested in learning more about your experiences teaching at Slauson Middle School. I was wondering if you would be willing to speak with me for 15 to 20 minutes so I could learn more about your experiences and learn what I could do to be an ideal candidate when a position becomes available. I am available to meet or call you at a time that is convenient for you. So again, being very short and concise, including the time expectation, talking a little about yourself. Again, this is just a sample, so please modify or create one of your own following the information we shared earlier. So question, is it important to have a professional social media, or more important to just not have unprofessional social media? For example, none of my social media is in my full name. Would employers frown upon candidates whose social media they can't find? Good question. So this comes up often as we meet with students who say, well, I might be on Facebook, but I'm not on Twitter. And it sounds like Twitter might be more actively used in schools, among administrators and parents. And so I think there are some things that come to mind in the event that there's nothing that they can find around you, right? Because they are looking. For one, you have students who are going to be actively engaged online. And so one of the things that comes to mind is, how are you thinking about the ways in which you work with students if you're not online and you don't know sort of what's happening in that space? And so it can it can benefit you, I think, to be a part of those conversations and to be active online, because then you'll know sort of the things that are happening. I think you have to know where your students are, and you want to know what's happening in the communities, in your school community. And so being active online can certainly help you in terms of finding out that information. So I would say, even if you have some social media accounts that are not in your name, I would encourage you maybe to create some other accounts that maybe you're just using more professionally than others. That way you have some online presence. Again, sometimes if a administrator or an interview panel, for example, if you have candidates who are all moving through the process, and let's say you have your top 3 candidates, right? And everyone has done good in terms of a demonstration lesson. Everyone has performed well during an interview. Sometimes either your online digital portfolio or your social media can be the thing that sets you apart from other candidates. Because again, if everyone has, met the mark in terms of interviewing, they're trying to find the next thing in order to make a decision about who should be the individual to get the offer. And those are ways in which interview committees are making those decisions. Again, looking at other information that they have, so that being what information is included on your portfolio, and then looking at your social media accounts to see, are you actively engaged? Is there anything that is off-putting? And so just keep that in mind as you're deciding about social media and what's best for you. So I'm going to do a plug here. So hopefully that you can come back. We do have part 2 of the Job Search Bootcamp series, which is Finding the Perfect Job. That session is going to be held on Monday, November 16th, same time, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Additionally, we have our alumni panel event. So what happens next? Advice from alumni teachers. This is going to be a panel. So students will have an opportunity again to do some networking with some alums from the program. And that event will be held on Wednesday, November 18th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. And so I certainly hope that you're able to join us. Again, in thinking about networking, the Advice from Alumni Teachers panel can be a great opportunity to identify alumni who you might be able to follow up later with, but also get some of your questions answered during that session. So we hope that you can attend. Information will be posted in EdWorks, and we hope that you can join us. So that concludes our webinar for today. So thank you and have a great afternoon.